Hi everyone, Simon Chappell here. I'm the Quit Alcohol Coach and I'm here to help you smash your sobriety. I hope you're doing great. Today I wanted to talk about socializing and the fear after we quit drinking about going out into either new environments or back to the places that we used to go when we drank. Now, a lot of us are in lockdown right now, but I know there's a fear about what's going to happen after the lockdown ends and socializing. So I wanted to address some of those things and share some tactics that worked for me and some advice that I've picked up along the way that hopefully is going to help you when you go back out and you start socializing again after you quit drinking. But right now, if you're worrying about socializing, you can rein that in. Try and just think about today and the couple of days ahead. Socializing is going to be a little way off in the future if you're watching this during lockdown. If you're watching this after the lockdown's ended, thank God we're out of this thing and you can take these tips and get yourself out there and start enjoying a social life again. But right now, that seems like a long way away. So, first of all, I took some time to think back to when I enjoyed socializing before I drank. Now, I started drinking in my mid to late teens, so it was a long time ago, but I still knew that I could have fun when I didn't drink. And some of you guys might have started drinking later, or you might have had periods where you didn't drink. So you can use those to build on your confidence that you know you can have a good time when you don't drink alcohol. Obviously, if you started drinking like when you were 10 years old, it might be tough to imagine that. It was a little bit tough for me, but I knew there was a time that that had existed in the past. What I also tried to do was embrace the joy of missing out. I think often there's this huge fear of missing out. My friends are at the pub. My friends are going out nightclubbing tonight and they're all going to get smashed out of their face. And you have this kind of fear that you're missing out on something. But the reality is there's actually a joy in missing out. JOMO, we've heard of FOMO, right? The joy of missing out. This last New Year's Eve, I absolutely embrace the joy. You might have seen the picture that I put on my Instagram page. I was under this wonderful, comfy new blanket that I brought on my sofa. I wasn't out in the cold and the rain and getting drunk and listening to Big Ben chime in. I watched it on the TV with my wife and a nice tonic water with a botanical drink and a slice of lime. I had a wonderful time. The joy of missing out. It definitely worked for me. So try and embrace that. Don't always think that just because you're not there, you're missing out on something. Often the best fun is had where you are right now. You don't have to go to these events. And that's another point. Take a moment. Do you really want to go? Is it something that feels like fun these days? After I quit drinking, I definitely wasn't drawn to boozy trips to the pub or boozy nights out with friends. To me, they started to feel like a chore. I found so much more fun and connection in new activities. I joined a boot camp and I made loads of new friends in an environment of fitness, which is something I really enjoy. Now, a lot of those people still drink. They weren't sober friends, but alcohol wasn't the main subject. The whole thing doesn't revolve around alcohol. And when you quit, you tend to have a lot more energy, a lot more motivation to do these new activities. And sure, it can be a little bit nervy the first time you go to something like that and meeting new people. But as I talked about before on one of my other videos, what overcomes fear? What overcomes anxiety? Courage. I needed a little bit of courage. And when I first went along, that was exactly what I did. I remember sitting in my car and thinking, oh my God, there's 20 people here that I don't know. But I stepped up and I moved forward and I made some awesome new friends where alcohol wasn't the center of the universe, the center of the activity. And many of those friends were really interested in my story around not drinking and asked me about how I quit and told me that some of them were worried about their own relationship with alcohol. So you don't have to go on boozy nights out if you don't fancy it. You've got the power of choice in this. And remember that you can always make the decision. You don't have to go. The next thing to understand is that Social events are fun because of the event, because of the people. We have this misconception, an illusion that alcohol is what makes them fun. And that's often based on experiences from the false beliefs that we've had over the years and this huge value that we place on alcohol. But it is just an illusion. And I'll give you an example. Over the last couple of years since I quit drinking, I've been to 2 weddings. Yes, that's how many friends I've got. I've been invited to 2 whole weddings. One of them, I felt like I was invited to make up the numbers. It was somebody we hadn't seen and don't see very often. And my wife and I went along to the wedding, and we only really knew the bride and a couple of other people there. And it was kind of boring. It was a great wedding. They'd spent a fortune on it, but we didn't really know anybody. And we were kind of bored. We ended up leaving around 7 p.m. and came home, got a takeaway, and watched some Saturday night TV. We went to the other wedding, which was a best friend of ours, and we knew almost everybody. We had an amazing time. We spent the whole day talking to people, reconnecting with people that we hadn't seen in a long time. We danced. I danced sober and felt like nobody was watching. And in fact, they weren't watching because they were all drunk. And it was an awesome event. I had such a fun time. Now, I wasn't drinking at either of those events, but one was boring and one was so much fun. And they weren't really any different. They were 2 weddings where they spent a lot of money on the entertainment, the food, the day, and the venue. What was different was the people and the people around me. And that was what made the second one so much fun. So it wasn't the alcohol. And I really understood this after I'd been to the second wedding and recognized that. And I'm sure you can think of events you've been to where you were drinking and they were boring. And probably, I know I did, I ended up drinking more, thinking if I drink more, it will become fun. No, I'll just become more drunk and probably make more of an idiot of myself. So an event is fun because of the people, because of the event itself. Alcohol really doesn't have its part to play. An event is still boring if it's a boring event, whether you're drinking or whether you're not drinking. And that was something I learned over the course of my own sober journey. And I also think it's really important to make sure you don't go out to any events where alcohol's involved, or you might be tempted to drink, or somebody might pressure you to drink until you feel ready. Do not go rushing out after a couple of days of quitting drinking, because there's every chance you might just think, oh, one won't hurt. What does it matter? I actually didn't go to any events involving alcohol for a couple of months after I quit. I had a couple of things in my diary where I knew it would be with friends who drank quite a lot. I just postponed them. I switched it out. Took my son bowling. We went to the cinema. I just did things where I knew I wouldn't drink. And then when I felt ready, that was when I decided to go to my first event. And I went with my wife. It was a gala dinner at my son's school. They had the trays of champagne that were free. There was a bar there. And I just took it gently. I'd spent some time visualizing what I thought it was going to be like. I wrote it down in my journal. And then I actually compared it the next day, what I'd visualized to how it actually was. I'd prepared what I was going to say to people. And I think that's really important when somebody asks why you don't drink. Yes, you can say you're driving, you could say you're on medication. I can't say that I'm pregnant, but that's an excuse that women can use for sure if you want to do that. But I decided I didn't want to do that. And I told people that I don't drink. A couple of people asked me why. And when they did, I was happy to share my story with them. I think you can judge what people are like. If somebody kind of goes, oh, you don't drink, you may not want to tell them so much. If somebody asks you with a genuine sense of interest, it's up to you, but then you may want to share a little bit more. And when that happens, I'll happily tell people that, yeah, I don't drink. I decided alcohol had too much control over my life and I put in the work and decided to quit. And often people who ask those questions are worried about their own drinking and they're asking because they want to know why. And you can end up inspiring other people just from your own journey. It's happened to me so many times. And I know lots of people who've experienced the exact same thing. And that's one of the wonderful gifts of sobriety, is that you can actually help other people, often without even realizing it. So this event, I'd visualized it. I'd driven the car there. My wife came with me. And I made sure she was there as a support for me. And I reached out to her. I was vulnerable. I said, I'm going to need you tonight. I want you to hold my hand. I want you to have my back and look out for me. And she absolutely did do that. One of the other things that I did at that event and pretty much every other event I've been to is I observed with a sense of curiosity. I think I now know the various stages of seeing people drunk, everything from that first drink right through to when they can practically not stand up at the end of the night and everything in between. And there's a point you'll find out if you don't drink where drunk people start to become annoying. They don't listen to what you're saying. They often spray you with spit. They talk loudly, and they're just generally annoying. You'll see it. You'll know when you know, you know. And often that can be the time that you might think, do you know what? I'm not really having fun anymore. And it can be time to leave. And the beauty of socializing sober is that you can drive your car home. You can get into your comfortable bed. You're not going to wake up with a hangover. You're not going to be sick. My trick used to be falling up the stairs and smashing myself. I know that that's not going to happen. You can really feel the joy of your comfy bed and how good it is to go out and socialize and be the true version of yourself and really connect with people. And if you're a little bit nervous about socializing sober or self-conscious, try and turn that around. Become conscious of other people. So you might start just by looking at someone and saying, what color are their eyes? Or looking at their facial features, taking in some detail without looking like a stalker. But spend some time doing that. And it can be a little bit nerve-wracking and you might need a little bit of courage to do it, but try and put the attention on them. Ask them questions, engage with other people, and that takes your own self-conscious feelings away because you're engaging with other people, and it really does work. So flip that self-conscious feeling around and suddenly you won't be feeling self-conscious at all, and you'll be the true version of yourself. You'll suddenly find yourself smiling, laughing, connecting, probably making new friends depending on the type of the function that you go to. The next thing is alcohol-free drinks. Whether you enjoy alcohol-free beers or alcohol-free wines, I think alcohol-free wines are gross, but there's so many zero alcohol-free drinks. So find what you love. If you're going to an event, you can call the venue ahead of time and ask if they've got your favorite zero alcohol-free drinks. If not, ask if you can bring your own. If there's a form you fill in where you select what food you're going to have, for example, at a work Christmas party, you might want to write on there, I'm alcohol free. That's a dietary requirement. It's a lifestyle choice, just like someone who's vegan, and put on there what you request and ask them to confirm that that's what they'll supply you with. And if not, tell them you're going to be bringing your own drinks if they can't come up to the mark. Those sort of things can really help because they're an excellent tool on your sober journey. Now, I mentioned having an exit plan. There's some people I know actually do the opposite, and they like to stay right to the end of the evening and observe it, watch the events unfold. I think this takes probably a little more strength. I definitely couldn't have done this in the early days after I quit drinking, but there is a level of joy and maybe smugness in being there at 3 a.m. when your friends are having a teary meltdown and they're crying about the most random of things or having an argument about something ridiculous, and you're the sensible one, you're the one trying to diffuse the situation, just thinking, my God, is this how I used to behave? But I rarely do that. I quite like to get into my bed early, enjoy a lovely night's sleep, wake up hangover free and just feeling so good about the world, especially when your friends message you. In fact, generally I'm the first one to message because they're still in bed with a hangover and they tell you how they were sick last night. They can't remember getting home, all the rest of it. It brings back all the memories and just makes you feel so good that you're not in that position when you're the one out for a walk in nature at 9 o'clock in the morning, feeling the sun on your face, connected with your true feelings and just loving life. What a wonderful feeling. Remember the fear of missing out versus the joy of missing out. I think that's so important in this. Be selective about where you choose to go and what you choose to do with your time. Just like drinking, you've got the choice. You don't have to do anything. And that was exactly what I did. I started being picky about where I went, who I went with, when I went. I started to much prefer early evening activities, activities based around fitness. I started swimming a lot more, going to the gym with my wife a lot more. Alcohol based events just lost their appeal. I still love things like family barbecues or barbecues in the garden with friends, that kind of thing. But I don't really like staying out at events where everybody's drinking and they don't end till 2 or 3 in the morning. And someone ends up upset, someone ends up having an argument. It's just not for me anymore. And I Please don't think I'm being judgy in any way. It's our own personal preference. And you might find that you still love going to those sort of things. You might still enjoy going to the pub, something that I don't really enjoy doing. But for me, anything that's based solely around alcohol just holds no interest in any longer in my life. Just like alcohol itself. It's irrelevant, it's unimportant, and I don't want to have anything to do with it. But different people enjoy different things, and part of this journey is exploring what you like, discovering what you love. But don't be afraid of venturing out into the social world. Just make sure that you've set yourself up with the right support, the right tactics, the right tools. Visualize before you go. Take the time to think about how it's all going to be. I think an exit plan, if I was going to pick one thing, having an exit plan so you can leave at any point is absolutely the biggest tip of all. And also remember this, if it's a boozy affair, nobody's going to notice if you leave. I remember my first work Christmas party. Everybody was on the dance floor. Some of them could hardly stand up. I just slipped off about 11 p.m., drove home, got myself a takeaway on the way home. I had a wonderful night just watching TV in the house alone. Oh my God, it was lovely. So share your experiences of social events. Tell me how you're feeling. If we're still in lockdown when you're watching this, tell me how you're feeling about socializing sober when the lockdown ends. Obviously, especially if you've quit drinking during the lockdown and you're using it to your advantage. What are you thinking about that? What's coming up for you? I'll be sure to reply to all the comments and answer any questions you have around that. But for now, have a think about how socializing and sobriety go together in your life. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video.